God's image is on you, and you are called to bring yourself back to God, because while you are a created being and you are a gift, you are also God's possession.
Welcome to the Jesus Storybook Bible Podcast, a place where we remind you that grace can rewrite any story, that hope shines a light through our darkest moments, and that God's love changes lives. Here's your host, New York Times bestselling author, Sally Lloyd Jones.
Hello, I'm Sally Lloyd Jones, author of the Jesus Storybook Bible, which tells the story of God's never stopping, never giving up, unbreaking, always and forever love. Welcome to the show. One of my favourite quotes is from Brennan Manning, author of All is Grace, a Ragamuffin memoir. He says this: God loves you unconditionally, as you are, and not as you should be, because nobody is as they should be. Isn't that wonderful? Our guest today, Reverend Chris Lee, is a pastor in West London who has made a name for himself initially through his online 60-second sermons. His secret? They're real, raw, and in the moment, authentically drawing people into life as it is, not just the shiny moments. Chris's goal is to show us, especially those of us who don't feel seen or heard, that God sees us and loves us just as we are, and that even when we mess up, we are deeply loved. I hope you appreciate what Chris has to say as much as I have. So without further ado, please welcome my friend and now yours, Reverend Chris Lee.
Hi everyone, my name is Chris Lee. I am a pastor, a Church of England priest here in West London. I'm husband to Jenny and father to 3 wonderful children. Rose, Jack, and Saoirse. I was seen as an influencer online through my social media work on Instagram and popular YouTube videos that I've been involved in as well. So those kind of avenues have opened up many doors for me. At 19, 20, I kind of was questioning life, the world, myself, who I was, and I left and quit a job and a house and went out to live in Tanzania. And it was there that I really came to know Christ. And I lived out in Tanzania in a very rural area called Kiteto. And it was there that I felt the call, and I trained to be a pastor. And I was ordained deacon in the Diocese of Mount Kilimanjaro at the age of 24. And I was one of the youngest kind of Church of England ministers at that point there. And I was questioning what to do next. Like, Lord, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to stay, become a full-time missionary for life, or return to the UK, or what was it? And I felt called to come back to the UK and do some more study. So I actually returned and went to Cambridge University, where I met my wife and did some further training. And then I was eventually ordained into the Church of England as a priest and did a curacy. And then after the curacy became an incumbent. So I got my own church, became the vicar. And it was while I was becoming a vicar that I started going on a friend's YouTube channel that led to popularity online, which suddenly led to me having a huge following on Instagram and me thinking, oh Lord, what do you want me to do with this? And I felt just a whisper of God say, I want you to be on this platform and give a message of the gospel to a younger generation and young people who are searching. So that's what I did. When my Instagram started to fill up and I suddenly had thousands and thousands of people following me, I felt like I should use this platform to give a message of hope, of love, of light, of the gospel onto the platform of Instagram, which can sometimes be a little bit like, check out my food and my holiday snaps and things like that. And I wanted to filter in maybe a bit more message of hope into that. And I thought, how on earth do I do this? Like, what should I do? I invented this kind of idea called 60-second sermons because that's all Instagram had back when I started it. I think a lot of people online are looking for authenticity, and I think that's what I try and do, is give an authentic message that's hit me at the moment and use that to immediately speak it online. I don't sit down and endlessly write out, condensed sermons. I just simply now, most of the time, walking down the street, think, oh, I'd like to say something about this. And maybe it's about hope or fear or love or about God's justice or mercy or his grace. And I just come out with it. I think one of the things that I noticed in culture is we're starving to be known and seen. And I think we're finding it in all the wrong places. And I feel like I really wanted to teach and tell people that the truth of where they really are searching is in who God says you are. And He says, you are my beloved. I love you. I find it surprising that that message is so easily lost in the church, and we become a little bit judgy and condemnatory, and the gospel is good news. So if I'm coming away from a gospel message feeling bad, I'm like, well, why? Why? Where's the good news? I want to be a voice that says, your truest self is good and loved by God. And, yes, you will fall. Yes, you've got stuff wrong. Yes, you sin, but you are also deeply loved by a loving Father who's done all things for you to know Him. You can go right back to the beginning of the Bible, where at the very beginning it says, let us make man in our image. And it's a beautiful truth which says that God loves all of creation, but we are its crown, and we are the ones who bear the image of God. And Augustine, a famous Christian church father, said that our hearts are restless, Lord, until they find their rest in you. I think the compass of our soul searches to find its home, and ultimately our home is found in God and who God says we are. And He says that we are His and that we are loved. And so I think to know ourselves, to be able to truly know who we are, we should know God. I'm an identical twin, so I've always had this question of identity. You have to really search for that question. Well, what makes me unique? How am I separate? They say comparison is the thief of joy. I think there is some nuance within that. Sometimes comparison can help us be better. So you might look at someone and say, oh, they're really good at this. I'd like to be like that. And there's the kind of a good level of comparison and competition that can be healthy, that edges us forward and keeps us going. But like everything else, there is also a negative attribute where we compare ourselves in order to either feel better or we feel worse because of it. And that's not positive. But ultimately, coming to a place of gratitude, of thanksgiving for what you have, and being able to give thanks for your strengths, but also acknowledging that your weaknesses lead you to other lessons and other abilities to be taught, which can strengthen you as well. What we celebrate, we see more of, and we're able to see more of in our lives. If we're more thankful, if we live a life that is a little bit more seeking to be thankful, seeking to be grateful for things, then the lens in which we view the world changes, and it leads to a humility, which leads to, I think, greater peace in our lives. Maybe during this time of Thanksgiving, one of the things that I think is really interesting to ask yourself is the character of God. We hang out with people, hopefully with our family and friends, people who we love, who we know, who we could understand what their character is like. And we understand the character of God by looking at Jesus and what Jesus did and what He taught. And He taught that God is a loving Father who runs to us, who gives us a cloak around our shoulders, who invites us to the banquet, who rescues us, and who is for us, who speaks compassionately, as we see in the person of Jesus, who doesn't judge but brings people closer to God. And I think the character of God and understanding that is really essential. And when we know God's character, we are better able to know who we are, because we are made by Him and for Him. I'll be reading from a story in the Jesus Storybook Bible called Operation No More Tears, where God gives Isaiah a message to share with the world. Do you know what your name means? Well, there was once a man called Isaiah, and his name meant God to the rescue. That might sound like a bit of a funny name to you, but it was just the right name for Isaiah, because God had a special job for Isaiah. You see, Isaiah's job was to listen to God and then tell people what he heard. Now, God let Isaiah know a secret. God was going to mend his broken world. He showed Isaiah his secret rescue plan, Operation No More Tears. This is the message God gave Isaiah. It was like a little letter God wrote to his children. Dear little flock, you're all wandering away from me like sheep in an open field. You have always been running away from me, and now you're lost. You can't find your way back. But I can't stop loving you. I will come to find you. So I'm sending you a shepherd to look after you and love you, to carry you home to me. I love the idea that even though we get it wrong, even though we fall away, even though we wander off, God doesn't say, well, that's it, then I told you so, off you go. But he says, no, I want to rescue you and I will rescue you. And why does he do that? But because he loves us. He comes to find us. And wherever you may be in your life, maybe you've wandered, maybe you've got it wrong, God isn't surprised. He's not shocked. He simply loves you and he wants to bring you home. So wherever you are, I would encourage you, come back home. Come back home to God because he loves you.
You can get the Jesus Storybook Bible wherever books are sold. To find out more about the book and all of Sally's other books, please visit Sally at sallylloyd-jones.com and follow her on Instagram at Sally Lloyd Jones and at Jesus_Storybook_Bible.
Before we go, don't forget, God loves you with a never stopping, never giving up, unbreaking, always and forever love. Oh, hello, it's me again, Sally. I'm just popping back briefly to say two things. The first thing is, don't forget to subscribe to the show, because that way you'll get the stories straight to your phone. And the other thing is, while we're at it, would you rate the show and leave us a review? That would be so great because it helps other people find the show too. I really appreciate your help. Thank you.